Good afternoon, my dear students. Today's topic of discussion is number of phase space cells in the momentum interval P and P plus dP. This is going to be very important topic as it can be there in the exam. So before discussion of this topic, I must remind you one thing that you might have done in your lower classes. You might have done one topic in your lower classes, such as, I'll just give you an example. There is a large square of area 100 meter square. Alright. How many small squares of area 10 meter square each can be made in the large square? This is a very familiar example you might have done in your lower classes. So wherever you have to find number, see how many small squares means number of squares you have to find out given large area and the small area. So whenever such type of problems are there, what you have to do is simply, how can you find out the number of small squares that can be made from the large square? It is always equal to the ratio of the two areas. What two areas? Area of the larger square divided by area of each small square. It comes out to be simply 10, unitless quantity, because area divided by area comes out to be 10. Such an article is given by your next topic, which is given to be number of phase space cells in the momentum interval P and P plus dP. So my dear students, it's nothing but the same thing that you have to find out the number of cells in the momentum interval P and P plus dP. So what we are going to do over here, see, let the number of phase space cell per unit. So I have underlined this line, see, per unit momentum interval be GP. This means in the momentum interval dP, the number of phase space cell you can find out if you know what is the number of phase space cells in the unit interval. Alright. Then the number of phase space cells in the momentum interval P and P plus dP, that means P plus dP minus P. The interval comes out to be dP only. So in 1 unit, the number of phase space cell is GP. In dP units, the number of phase space cell will be GP into dP. I wish to calculate GP into dP. Now say I can find out over here the same applying formula. What is the number of phase space cells in the interval GP and dP? This is total available volume in the interval P and P plus dP, because I wish to find out the number of phase space cells in this interval only. So I have to find out total available volume in this interval divided by available volume of one phase space cell. This is the same thing, see, larger area divided by smaller area. This is the same numerical type problem. Alright. Now GP dP means the number of phase space cells which are lying in the interval dP can be given by finding out the total volume in the interval dP divided by volume of one phase space cell. So first of all, my calculations are to find out the available volume in the momentum interval P and P plus dP. So here, dear students, I must tell you one thing. We have already found the available volume of one phase space cell, which is H naught the cube. So I am going to use the same thing for the denominator. Denominator of this equation is simply H naught the cube. This is the numerator what I wish to find out over here. So how can I find out the numerator? Now see, we can find it out by drawing simply two spheres. Why do I am going to draw spheres? Because this is the easiest way to find the volume of a sphere. Volume is the easiest figure sphere is the easiest figure whose volume can be found easily. So I have drawn two spheres. Whose inner sphere has a radius of P and the outer sphere has a radius of P plus dP. I can find out easily the shaded volume, because this is the volume which is going to be existed in the interval dP. See, I have subtracted the volume of the sphere in the radius P, and I have considered only the volume occupied by the sphere whose thickness is dP. Alright. So now see, GP dP is simply total volume of the available space. Total volume, how can I find out? Total volume is always equal to volume in the position space multiplied by volume in the momentum space divided by H naught the cube. This is the available volume of one phase space cell. This is simply the volume in the position space, which is simply written as V, because you can find out the volume of a cubical part or a parallelepiped whose length, breadth and height can be known. So this is simply V. I have written it as V. Now what is the over here? It is GPDP comes out to be equation number 2. Putting the value over here as V, this will remain as it is. Now my aim of calculation is now to find out the total integration. See, one thing I have forgot to tell you. This is the total volume integration over here because I'm talking about the space. So in space, you can find out the volume by integrating simply in 3 dimensions. So I've taken the 3-dimensional integration. That means the volume integration. Similarly, volume you have to find out in space of the momentum. You have taken here again as the volume integration. Now, treating the equation 2 as our compulsory equation, what I'm going to do now is I have to find out this. That is the volume integration of dpx, dpy, dpz. So to represent this volume, what I have to do, it represents the volume element in the momentum interval dp. That is p plus dp and p. Now to find out this, we draw 2 concentric spheres with radii p and p plus dp respectively as shown in figure A. Then the volume of the momentum space, see this space, the shaded space between these 2 spheres corresponds to the momentum interval between p and p plus dp. This is very simple to calculate. V dash, you might have done this in your lower classes. The volume of the outer sphere minus the volume of the inner sphere. This is the one method you can find out this volume. Or in other words, if you know the formula, if I have a sphere of radius p and thickness dp, that's volume has surface area into the thickness. What will be the surface area of the sphere whose radius is p? It is 4 pi p square into thickness dp. That means the volume automatically comes out to be 4 pi p square into dp. So you can find out in this way by directly applying the formula, neglecting dp square and dp cube in comparison to dp because the thickness is going to be very small. So you can neglect this square, cube and the higher terms. I'll simply get v dash is equal to 4 by 3 pi into 3 p square dp, which comes out to be again 4 pi p square dp. So I must suggest you over here that simply apply the formula surface area of the sphere whose radius is p into thickness dp of the sphere. This is simply going to be the formula which is given by equation number 3. Now I am going to use this equation 3 in my equation number 2 over here. So gp dp again comes out to be over here as 4 pi v p square into dp. This is the expression which is required, means the number of phase space cells in the volume interval, in the momentum interval p and p plus dp. This is the required expression. So the next topic is basic approach to 3 statistics. Again, this is the important topic over here. See, this is very important. I have already written over here. What is the basic approach to 3 statistics? My dear students, I have already told you about the statistics. It's 3 kind of statistics, that is MB, Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics, BE, that is Bose-Einstein statistics, and FD, that is the Fermi-Dirac statistics. See, this is basic approach here means a basic equation. In this topic, we are going to derive an equation which will remain as basic to these 3 kinds of statistics. That means, in deriving the expressions of these 3 kinds of statistics, there must be one equation which I am going to use in all the 3 kinds of statistics, and hence the name, that is basic approach to 3 statistics. Means, in all kinds of the 3 statistics, we have to need one equation which is simply applicable to all 3 kinds of statistics, and that equation is simply known as basic approach to 3 statistics. So in this topic, I am going to derive the same equation which is simply known as basic approach to 3 statistics, that is MB, BE and FT statistics. It is essentially the same, but we get different results due to different assumptions of all the 3 statistics. In spite of using this basic approach, we are going to get the different results in 3 kinds of statistics just because of their different assumption. My dear students, you might be knowing that all the 3 kinds of statistics have got the different kinds of assumptions. We have already discussed in this chapter's start. Alright, so how can I derive this basic equation? The first point, there are only 3 points which is to be considered over here. The first point is, since all the dynamic systems spend maximum of their time in the most probable macro state. We have already discussed this. This is the time spent in the most probable macro state, which is going to be the maximum, for which W is maximum, because the most probable state is that one for which W is maximum. So when W is maximum, since time spent is directly proportional to probability, W is maximum means probability is maximum. If probability is maximum, time spent is also maximum. So if the number of constituent particles is very large, see, underline this line, if the number of constituent particles is very large, W will be very, very large. So in that case, we deal with the natural log of W instead of W, just as n factorial, the Stirling's formula. Because n is very large, it becomes tedious process to find out natural log of factorial of n. Similarly, here W is very large, so it's going to be tedious process to calculate W. We wish to find out the natural log of W. Since W is maximum for the most probable state, in that case natural log of W is also again a constant. Maximum means constant quantity. The constant's derivative, it is always equal to 0. I'll name this simply as equation number 1. Now come to the second assumption, second case. What is going to be the second part? For any given dynamic system, the number of the constituent particles n remains constant. So this is again we have discussed about the constraints. We have distributed 4 particles in 2 compartments. What we wished over there? The total number of particles in the 2 compartments remain 4. We have also distributed n particles in 2 compartments, for which we have assumed that the total number of particle n remains constant. So I am always again using here the same constraint for any given dynamic system, because I am not going to add any material from outside. I am not going to subtract any material from the inside. That is why n remains constant. So although the number of particles in different compartments may vary, yes, it is may possible that in first compartment, in one microstate, there are n1 particles, but in the second macrostate, it may happen that the n1 particles enter into the second compartment and nk particles enter into the first compartment. So each compartment has got different particles in each macrostate, but the total number of particles remains constant. That is, n is equal to n1 plus n2 plus n and so on plus nk, which is a constant. So n, this can be replaced by summation ni, which is a constant. So differentiating both sides, I'll get n's derivative, it is dn, summation, ni's derivative, it is dni. Right hand side constant derivative, it becomes 0. Derivative of the constant is always equal to 0. So I'll name this as equation number 2. Now, come to the third equation. How can I go for the third part? Also, the total energy U assigned to the system remains constant. So here, that one thing that I must tell you, that whenever we treat about a dynamic system, we always assume that the system is in insulation condition. That means the system cannot change energy with its surroundings, or in other words, the system is completely cut off with its surroundings. It cannot transfer any matter or any kind of energy with its surroundings. It cannot exchange any energy with its surroundings. Neither it can gain nor it can lose energy from its surroundings. That means the total energy U assigned to the system always remains constant. You see, whatever I have assumed over here, what is U1? It is the mean energy. See, it is the mean energy. Mean means the average energy of the total particles in first compartment. What is U2? It is the average energy of second compartment. What is UK? It is the average energy assigned to the kth compartment. So suppose first compartment has got n1 particles. Here mean or average means one particle's average energy. So if one particle energy is U1, which is the energy of n1 particle, it will be n1 into U1. It means it is the total energy assigned to the first compartment. Now similarly, what is n2 into U2? It is the total energy assigned in the second compartment, because in second compartment particle is n2, mean energy is U2. The total energy comes out to be n2, U2 and so on. Last is nk, uk. It is the energy assigned to the kth compartment. This should remain as constant. Or in other words, U. summation NiUi. This is replaced by summation NiUi, which is a constant. Differentiating both sides, you will get du is equal to summation. See, mean or average, it always remains constant. Keep this thing in brain. For ith particle, mean or ith compartment's ui, that is the mean energy assigned to the ith compartment, will not change. It will remain as constant. So ui as it is, derivative of ni, that is dni. Constant's derivative becomes 0. This I'll name it as equation number 3. Now what I'm going to do is just multiplying your equation number 2 with minus alpha and with equation 3 as with minus beta, and then adding these two equations to the equation number 1, I'll get d natural log of w minus alpha dn minus beta du is equal to 0. This is the equation number 4. Please remember this equation because this is very important equation which I am going to use in the third chapter, your second or third chapters. Alright, now you have to put the value of dn over here. What is the value of dn? It is summation dni from equation number 2. What is the value of du? It is summation ui dni from equation number 3. See, du is equal to summation ui into dni. I'll get this equation. So in these two terms, I keep negative sign common, summation common, and dni as common. So I'll get equation number 5. This is the very important equation which is known as basic approach to 3 statistics. So from now, you are going to remember this equation, equation number 5, and this is something which is known as basic approach to 3 statistics. This or this. These two are the similar equations because I have derived this equation from this equation. These two are known as basic approach to 3 statistics, which is used in all the 3 kinds of statistics, that is MB, BE and FD statistics. I hope you have got today's video. Thank you so much.